Throughout millions of years of Earth's history, one question has never once faded away. Did humans truly evolve naturally? Or was there once a hidden hand that interfered with our destiny? Many ancient legends, from Sumer to Egypt, speak of gods descending to Earth who possessed intelligence and technology far beyond human understanding. And among countless hypotheses, one name always appears layered with mystery: Anunnaki, a species believed to have set foot on Earth thousands of years before history was ever recorded. Some researchers believe they did not come with the intention of conquest, but to mine gold, a mineral that, according to ancient texts, held extraordinary importance to their civilization. If they truly came, the question becomes, what did they do to this planet and to humanity itself? Moreover, there are signs suggesting they are still observing humans every day. So what exactly is the purpose of the Anunnaki? Let us step right into today's story. Many archaeologists around the world view present-day Iraq as the cradle of civilization. And it was right here, in the dry land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers more than 6,000 years ago, that a civilization emerged in a way that still astonishes humanity today. Sumer. What made Sumer special was not just its antiquity, but the fact that this civilization seemed not to have undergone the slow developmental stages typical of other primitive societies. Here, around 3,500 years before Christ, the Sumerians, a small yet deeply mysterious people, appeared and completely changed the trajectory of human development. What they left behind astonishes the modern world. Cities planned in grid patterns, complex sewage systems, monumental architecture, large-scale agriculture, and above all, they were the first people on Earth to invent writing. But what is even more curious is that their development unfolded too quickly, too exceptionally compared to other human groups of the same era. A major question arises: how could one of humanity's earliest civilizations possess creativity that seemed almost master-like? Some scholars have even questioned, could the Sumerians have been guided by some force, a force they called the Anunnaki? To understand this mystery, we must travel back to the early 19th century, the period marking one of the most important archaeological discoveries in human history. In 1849, at the Kuyunjik Mound in Iraq, the archaeological team of Austin Henry Layard excavated the ruins of the ancient city of Nineveh, once the capital of the Assyrian Empire. No one could have foreseen that beneath those layers of earth and stone was hidden a massive treasure of knowledge. More than 22,000 clay tablets inscribed with cuneiform, the oldest known writing system. At first glance, these tablets seemed just like rough pieces of baked clay. But when linguists began decoding them, each small symbol opened a door to an entirely new world. Stories that were thought to exist only in religion, such as the Great Flood or the myth of Adam and Eve, suddenly appeared in Sumerian texts in nearly their original form. This made many scholars ask themselves, could the foundational stories of the Bible have originated here, from the ancient Sumerian civilization itself? Some tablets even record detailed knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, law, commerce, medicine, and descriptions of the descent of gods whom the Sumerians called Anunnaki. These gods were not described as invisible entities, but as flesh and blood beings who came to Earth from a very distant place. As these documents were further deciphered, historians and archaeologists began to realize a shocking truth. Many of humanity's most important knowledge, from writing to calendars to descriptions of the universe, originated from Sumer, and nearly all of it, according to the Sumerians, was taught to them. This made the discovery of Nineveh one of the most important archaeological breakthroughs of all time. These clay tablets do not merely record the daily activities of the Sumerians, they are a historical black box, preserving the memory of an entire lost civilization. In ancient texts, the Anunnaki were not invisible spirits, nor were they abstract mythological figures. Instead, the Sumerians described them as flesh and blood beings, with specific appearances, personalities, ranks, duties, and most importantly, they once walked among humans. But what is unusual is that the Sumerians were strictly forbidden from seeing the true form of these gods. When required to depict them, they were only allowed to use symbols, which is why in reliefs and ancient statues, the gods often appear half human, half animal, or possessing unusual traits such as wings, bird heads, or human bodies with strange features. Many scholars believe these symbols were simply metaphorical, but some propose a bolder question. What made the Sumerians hide the true appearance of the Anunnaki? Could it be that their form was too different, or belonged to a nature not of this world? In ancient Middle Eastern mythology, the Anunnaki were described as being shaped similarly to humans, but larger, stronger, and with the extraordinary ability to change form. Some texts even describe them as having a radiance around their bodies, as if emitting an energy that people of that era could not comprehend. There are legends claiming that the Anunnaki possessed super-intelligence, far surpassing all human capabilities. If compared, the difference in intelligence between the Anunnaki and humans was likened to that between humans and chimpanzees today. But the greatest mystery remains the question: where did the Anunnaki come from? The answer appears in what are believed to be the oldest lines ever recorded by humankind. In them, the Anunnaki say they came from a distant world called Nibiru. Some texts describe Nibiru not as a planet like Earth, but as a celestial body with an unusual orbit, moving in an extremely long elliptical path, taking 3,600 years to complete one revolution around the sun. According to ancient writings, Nibiru does not lie within the familiar orbits of the planets we know today. Its journey carries it through the cold, dark regions of space, then back near the sun, creating cosmic disturbances that the Sumerians recorded with astonishing accuracy, surprising even modern astronomers. But the story became even more controversial in 1976, when author Zecharia Sitchin published his personal translation of these texts. Sitchin argued that Nibiru was the 10th planet, also called Planet X, a massive celestial body that once entered the solar system and caused major cosmic disruptions in the past. According to his hypothesis, Nibiru once faced catastrophe. Its atmosphere weakened, threatening all life on the planet. To restore it, the Anunnaki needed an element capable of reflecting radiation, resisting oxidation, and possessing a stable atomic structure: gold. And so they began their journey across space to planets with large gold reserves. Among them was Earth. Ancient texts describe the Anunnaki landing in Mesopotamia, Africa, and various regions where ancient mineral deposits still exist today. Stories recount that these gods not only came to mine gold, but also established governance systems, teaching humans agriculture, construction, astronomy, and even written record-keeping. Some legends say that the first Sumerian kings were chosen ones, people bearing the blood of the heavens. Even if this is metaphorical, it makes many people speculate about the possibility that certain ancient individuals carried a part of the Anunnaki's heritage. More surprisingly, in the 20th and 21st centuries, scientists actually discovered unusual patterns in the orbits of distant planets such as Neptune and Uranus. Some astronomers suggest that these orbital anomalies could be explained by a large unseen planet, something the Sumerians recorded 5,000 years ago. Several observatories have announced hints of a Planet X, but so far this celestial object remains unconfirmed. When studying humanity's mining history, scientists unexpectedly noticed something illogical. In many regions of southern Africa, there exist ancient gold mines that were exploited hundreds of thousands of years ago. This is shocking because, according to scientific understanding, humans of that era were merely primitive hunter-gatherer groups, entirely incapable of conducting large-scale mineral extraction. Archaeological sites in South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique have uncovered numerous ancient mining pits, tunnels descending tens of meters, and even traces of stone tools polished in a manner not consistent with prehistoric technology. Some areas contain oxidized metal debris, indicating that metals were once heated to extremely high temperatures, something primitive tools could not achieve. All of this leads to a question that has fueled scientific debate for decades. If prehistoric humans lacked the ability, then who mined that vast amount of gold? While many researchers suggest that dating may be inaccurate, some scholars believe these mines belong to a lost chapter of history. The history of a civilization far more advanced than we imagine. Remarkably, the ancient legends of the Zulu people and several African tribes recount a similar story. They say that those who came from the stars descended to Earth at the dawn of humanity. These visitors, according to the tales, sought the metal of the sun, and they created a special workforce to serve in the mines. The Zulu even describe in detail that these gods were tall, powerful, and often worked underground. They taught some skills to primitive humans but kept the greatest secrets to themselves. So who are we truly in Earth's story? Among the thousands of ancient Sumerian texts, there exists a haunting account of our origins, the story of the Anunnaki and the experiment to create humans for their own purpose. As Sumerian clay tablets continued to be decoded, the answers began to emerge, though filled with controversy. Some texts describe that when the Anunnaki miners began rebelling due to overwork in the gold mines, the Anunnaki Council decided to do something unprecedented: create a new species, stronger, more durable, and easier to control, to work in their place. This marked what some scholars call the turning point of humanity. According to Sumerian texts, the Anunnaki did not create humans out of nothing. They sought a native creature on Earth, primitive humans, capable of survival but lacking developed intelligence. Through a method mixing Anunnaki genetic engineering with the DNA of prehistoric humans, they created a hybrid being capable of performing labor as required. This being was called Adama, meaning person of the earth or first human, a name that later appeared in the Hebrew Bible as Adam, causing many to question the strange coincidence. According to Sumerian tradition, the earliest human versions could not reproduce. They existed individually, created in small groups, working in the mines under Anunnaki supervision. But as labor demand increased, the Anunnaki Council decided to alter the original design. They modified the genetic structure so humans could reproduce on their own, forming a massive workforce without needing to create each individual. From there, humans began to spread. They lived across valleys, plains, and even beyond Mesopotamia. According to Sumerian records, within just a few thousand years, humans multiplied so rapidly that no one could count them anymore, exceeding all Anunnaki expectations. And it was here that the story became frighteningly complex. Ancient texts describe a reality very different from our usual imagination of prehistory. Humans did not merely work for the Anunnaki. They learned on their own, developed on their own, gained self-awareness, and gradually ceased to be obedient creatures as the Anunnaki intended. Many records show that as humans grew increasingly intelligent, the Anunnaki began to argue. Some wanted to elevate humans to a new level of intelligence, teaching them culture, mathematics, astronomy, and construction. But others strongly opposed this, warning that humans developing too quickly would become a major threat in the future. The debate simmered for millennia until it escalated into a serious issue. Humans did not only multiply, but also built societies, formed communities, gained individual consciousness, and even became capable of resisting the gods who created them. Sumerian records say that the noise, chaos, and disobedience of humans angered some Anunnaki, and they decided that a measure to restore order was needed. In this part, the clay tablets describe one of the most catastrophic events humanity has ever known: a great flood. In Sumerian texts, the Great Flood was not purely an accidental natural disaster. It is described as a deliberate decision by the Anunnaki Council to return the world to its original order. Some gods agreed, but others, those who cherished humanity, opposed it and secretly sought to save a few surviving individuals. This story bears an uncanny resemblance to the legends of dozens of cultures. From Noah in the Bible, Deucalion in Greek mythology, Manu in Hindu tradition, to the legends of the Maya, the Inca, and many African tribes. All of them tell of a great flood that submerged the world, and of a person who was warned by the gods to build a vessel to escape the disaster. Whether literal or symbolic, this similarity leaves researchers puzzled. How could civilizations half a world apart share the same story? After the catastrophe, Sumerian texts say that the Anunnaki assigned the governance of Earth to a small group of chosen leaders who were described as bearing the blood of the heavens. This is the group that many modern documents call the kings before the flood. The Sumerians believed that their first kings were direct descendants of the Anunnaki, taught knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, calendar systems, and agriculture. They were the ones who built the first cities such as Eridu, Uruk, and Ur, places where human civilization once again ignited like a flame rekindled after darkness. But afterward, according to some texts, the Anunnaki began to withdraw from Earth. Not by disappearing completely, but in groups, in phases, each time following the 3,600-year cycle when Nibiru, their home planet, approached the sun. The Sumerians described the final departure of the Anunnaki as a sorrowful event, not gods abandoning humans, but like parents leaving a child who has grown enough to shape its own destiny. Yet their departure did not erase one truth. Humanity had developed beyond the original intention. They were no longer labor tools. They had become a new species, with consciousness, with desire, with intellect, and with the ability to build worlds of their own. And thus, human history, the history we continue to live, began from here. But the greatest question remains in the shadows. If the Anunnaki truly created humans, if they once taught us the earliest knowledge, if they once departed following the orbit of Nibiru, will they one day return, or have they never truly left? When the Anunnaki left Earth, as the Sumerians described, they did not leave behind only the first cities, the first kings, or the first written records. Surprisingly, they seem to have left behind a chain of strange traces, artifacts scattered across the planet that modern science still cannot fully explain. These traces appear in many places across many eras, yet share one characteristic. They exceed the technological abilities of ancient humans. Because of this, they are labeled under a controversial concept: parts, out-of-place artifacts. One of the most shocking artifacts was found in Iraq, once part of Mesopotamia. It is a small clay jar containing a copper cylinder, an iron rod, and traces of a weak acidic solution. When connected to testing equipment, this jar produces voltage. This stunned scientists who and why created a form of battery 2,000 years before Christ. If the Sumerian civilization, or a parallel civilization linked to the Anunnaki, knew about electricity, then the entire technological history of humankind would have to be rewritten from scratch. In Abydos, Egypt, an ancient relief depicts shapes resembling a helicopter, a fighter jet, and even an unidentified flying craft. These images appear in temples thousands of years before humans invented airplanes. Skeptics claim these are merely overlapping hieroglyphic layers. But when the shapes are compared with modern aircraft, the similarities are too significant to ignore. Did the ancient Egyptians imagine these forms? Or did they see something that history no longer mentions? In Baalbek, Lebanon, there are stone blocks weighing more than 1,000 tons, cut smoothly and placed with near-perfect precision. No modern machinery can move them easily, yet they have existed there for thousands of years. In Peru, Bolivia, Egypt, similar structures exist. Stone blocks weighing hundreds of tons joined so tightly that a blade cannot fit between them. A technology even modern engineering cannot fully replicate. Not only artifacts, but the Sumerian texts themselves, the oldest writing of humanity, repeatedly mention heavenly structures, machines that descended from the sky, and fires that burned without wood. Many descriptions make modern people think of spacecraft, jet engines, luminous devices, and even references to gravity or fuel combustion mechanisms. Of course, these could simply be ancient interpretations of phenomena they did not understand. But when such descriptions align with locations where strange technological traces appear, the entire picture becomes hard to consider accidental. One of humanity's biggest questions is, why did humans evolve so quickly? From Homo erectus to Homo sapiens, just a few 100,000 years. A tiny moment compared to the millions of years of evolution in other mammals. An unusually enlarged skull, a sudden increase in brain size, the emergence of language, abstract thinking, mathematics, astronomy, all seem to have come too quickly. Many scientists argue that these were random genetic mutations, but some scholars comparing this with Sumerian texts ask, mutation or intervention? In Sumerian writings, the Anunnaki selected a native primate species, combined their own genes and created humans as a hybrid experiment to serve in mining. If this were true, it would explain humanity's unusually rapid evolutionary leap. Throughout the 20th century, many scientists attempted to completely disprove the Anunnaki hypothesis. They claimed the artifacts were coincidences, the texts were metaphors, the stories were myths. But strangely, no counter-argument explains everything. Every debunking theory leaves gaps. Meanwhile, archaeological evidence, ancient texts, and out-of-place technology remain like puzzle pieces that cannot be ignored. Science cannot accept a hypothesis without absolute evidence. But science also cannot dismiss things that contradict current theories. And thus, the Anunnaki story persists. Not through blind belief, but through the unanswered gaps of human civilization. The final question we face is not simply, are the Anunnaki real? But rather, why do so many pieces around the world align so perfectly? A first civilization that appeared suddenly, astronomical knowledge far ahead of its time. Gods described as flesh and blood beings, gold mines exploited hundreds of thousands of years ago, technological artifacts inconsistent with their era, and a strange planet with a 3,600-year cycle, Nibiru, appearing in 5,000-year-old texts. If all of this is coincidence, then it is the greatest chain of coincidences in history. But if it is not coincidence, then what truly happened at the dawn of humanity? Could the Anunnaki be more than mythology? Could they be part of a history humanity has forgotten or has been made to forget? And if the Anunnaki came from a planet with a long orbital cycle, have they returned to Earth in the past few millennia, or will they return in the future until science uncovers the final answer? The Anunnaki will continue to exist on the boundary between myth and forgotten history, like a veil of mystery testing the curiosity of humans, the species once believed to be their creation. If you find this journey of exploration fascinating and want to continue decoding the mysteries behind human history with us, don't forget to leave a like and hit the subscribe button along with the bell icon so you won't miss any upcoming documentary episodes. We still have many mysteries waiting to be revealed. See you in the next video.